Welcome to the Money Maven Project podcast. If you're here to learn how to obtain freedom over your time and money through real estate investing, you're in the right place. Create the life you want by living with intention and becoming a Maven in mindset, money, and real estate. Now, here's your host, Justin Monk.
Hey, this is Justin Monk with the Money Maven Project podcast. I am super excited today. We've got Nick Prefontaine with us with an incredible story of overcoming adversity and obstacles and then succeeding in real estate. And I think we're going to learn a lot today. So I'm super excited. Nick, thanks for being on. I've heard your story before, but I want to hear it from you particularly. So why don't you kind of give us your background, kind of the story, and then how you got into real estate and where you're at today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on, Justin. I'm excited to be here with you and your listeners for sure. I'd like to always start telling my story and kind of my interest into real estate and everything. It all happened around the same time, which is when I was 14, I was with my ski club at the local mountain there, and going to the mountain, I remember, because we always got dismissed a little bit early for ski club. I remember getting on the bus, and because I was among one of the few, and me and my friends, we would bring our stuff on the bus so as not to miss a precious moment once we got to the mountain. So once we got to the mountain, we were ready.
Yeah,
we were ready to go. And I remember getting ready on the bus. There was a local hill. It was actually it was a hill that it was just a couple runs, and locally I wouldn't necessarily bring my helmet there, but whenever we went to this mountain, which was within 30 or 45 minutes, I would make sure I packed my helmet. And getting ready on the bus, I realized that I had forgot one thing, and that was my helmet. Justin, I didn't think anything of it. I just thought I'd be safe, I'd be careful. But of course, no one ever plans for anything to happen. But so at that smaller hill in the town that I lived in, I wouldn't bring my helmet there. So yeah. I always thought because it's smaller, but whenever we went here, I would normally bring it. So needless to say, we got to the mountain. I was ready. So were my friends, and we got going. On the ride up, on the chairlift up, we noticed that it was very icy. It was slick. People were wiping out everywhere because it had been raining.
Oh.
But needless to say, we got to the mountain and we got to the top and buckled in and got going right off. And then I buckled in and headed straight for the biggest jump with all my speed. And going out to that jump, I caught the edge of my snowboard, which threw me off balance.
Mm-hmm.
That was the last thing that I remember. I was told, Justin, that I landed on my head and I wasn't wearing a helmet. The doctors told my parents that I probably wouldn't walk, talk, or eat again. And there were a couple of events that happened, or a lot of events that happened, and kind of my foray into real estate after that. But to give you the ending real quick, the less than 3 months later, I ran out of Franciscan Children's Hospital in Boston. Now there were several things. There were several things, Justin, that allowed me to do that. Now, I'd like to go back to when I got in my accident. something happened. I didn't have a helmet on, but the goggles that I were wearing, they were big goggles. I don't know if you're a skier or a rider.
Yeah, I snowboard. Yeah.
Okay, they were Spies.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know if they still make them anymore, but big, thick, lot of cushioning. And then when I went off the jump, I caught the edge of my snowboard. So in the air, I went like this and landed on my head, and I kept hitting my head. Well, my goggles cushioned the initial impact. And every time I rolled, I kept rolling, kept hitting my head. They mysteriously or not mysteriously, depending on what you believe in,
Sure,
they rolled with me to brace each impact. So that was really something that I found out after the fact, and I'm very fortunate. That was one reason I'm very fortunate to be where I am today. Second was the staff of paramedics, because it was so windy at the mountain. They couldn't life flight me. They wanted to. Mm-hmm. They wanted to bring a helicopter in there to get me to the hospital, the ICU, as fast as possible, but they couldn't because it was too windy. There is only, I believe it's 1 or 2 out of the staff of 6 to 8 paramedics who can intubate right on the spot. Fortunately for me, this is another case, and there's 3 of them. But this the second one. One of those staff was working that day, and he was able to intubate me right on the spot.
Wow.
The third thing was when I got to the hospital, when I was in the ICU, and the doctors shared that grim news with my parents. They were worried because they said the doctors more specifically, because they said if I woke up and I panicked and I didn't know what was going on, the swelling in my brain, which was already really high, like the highest that it could go, would increase and I would die. So they had to kind of induce me into a coma.
Yeah.
To allow the swelling to come down. And they said without being induced into the coma, I would have been out for 7 to 10 days at a minimum, just based on the impact alone, for what had happened. But they had to put me in the coma. I was in a coma for 3 weeks, and really, Justin, I've seen home videos of me when I have my eyes open. I look in the video like I know what's going on, but I have no idea of that. I was like, the lights were on, but nobody was home in the ICU, because I don't remember consciously being in the ICU. However, like I said, I see videos of my eyes open. And then after a year or 2 later, I went back to UMass for a groundbreaking ceremony on a new building that they were making. And I spoke. That was one of my first events that I spoke at. In being there, I walked through the ICU for the first time. Walking through the ICU, I was like, oh. I was like, you look so familiar. I can't put my finger on it, but I think I've been here. Well, that's because, like, unconsciously or subconsciously, I knew the place, I knew the people. I just I didn't know them, but the images that resonated with me. Well, I was transported to Franciscan after about a month. I was transported to Franciscan Children's Hospital. At Franciscan, I was I was sent to the third floor. That's where I stayed initially when I got there. And that was for the trauma. That was for the trauma patients in the more serious cases. Part of the medical, advancements and everything, the reason why it's fuzzy. I don't really remember a lot of the third floor, and that's probably for a reason. That's probably why I am where I am today. Because of what they put me in. Most of my memories came when I was on the second floor, when I got moved to the second floor after only a little while of being there. But initially when I got there, I had to have a fully supported wheelchair, even all the way up to my head and my neck and everything, all the way down. It would take, even after I moved down to the second floor, it would take, I think it was 3 nurses just to support me in sitting up in bed. And even then, I would be thoroughly exhausted. I would be sweating profusely like I had run a marathon.
Yeah.
Like I just got done competing in an Ironman or something. Which I haven't competed in an Ironman. I've run in a few half marathons, but that's as far as I'll go.
Yeah.
At least for now.
Yeah.
But it was it was tough sledding in the beginning. And I remember while I was in a regular wheelchair, because how my days would be, I would wake up and I would have to get showered and get ready. And usually that shower would be with an occupational therapist. There's 2 things. There's no more humbling experience than being when I was still in a wheelchair, I would be wheeled on a bed, a big bed, to go shower. They would wheel me into the open room and shower me. Then graduating from there, I would have to like shower with my occupational therapist right there. So I mean, there's not really much to hide at that point.
No, there's not.
So I remember doing that, and then I would get ready, and I would have sessions of physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy. Then I would come back to my room, have lunch, and then in the afternoon, I would go down for more therapy, another session of physical, occupational, and speech therapy. Then after that, at the end of the day, I would come back to my room. And at one point, I had weights. I had free weights in my room, and I was doing exercises and doing free weights. The therapist would say to my parents that we're with them all day. We have double sessions of each therapy, and we go by his room, and he's like doing weights and stuff on his own. And they were long days, but they were long days only because I had the goal of running out of the hospital, and they all knew I didn't keep it to myself.
Yeah.
They all knew that at the time, what my goal was. And I also had, my dad at the time was doing some motivational speaking. So I had affirmations all around my hospital room on every wall that I looked. So even before I could walk, Justin, I couldn't get away from the positive messages all around. I couldn't walk. So what was I going to do? Run away from him? I remember sitting in my bed looking on one wall, and it says, with each day, I'm getting stronger and stronger. And then I'll look to the right. With each step, I'm getting closer and closer to my goals. So everywhere I looked, there was kind of affirmation that I was on this right path. So I think I think a lot of people say to me that they can't believe what I've been through and what I accomplished and things like that. And I always say, well, it wasn't just me. I mean, I wouldn't be where I am today without the support staff that I had around me and my family around me. That was huge.
Mm-hmm.
I say that, and then someone that's always saying this, that's always talking to me about this, they'll say, well, yeah, you still had to do the work. And I mean, I guess so. I just can't really, I can't imagine where I'd be without that support staff.
Yeah, I bet.
Definitely. And then I remember running out of the hospital. Then when I got back home to Shrewsbury, I was in 8th grade at the time. The school met with me. I went in and met with the school in the spring of 2003. And they said, oh, don't worry, take the year off. Take the rest of the year and the summer off to go to your rehab, to go to your therapy and rest up and get stronger and better. And you can come back and do the 8th grade again in the fall.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to do that. That's just, that's not my personality. I just didn't want to, that felt like I was going backwards. So I was like, no, I think I want to do it. Like I want to finish the 8th grade with my classmates and graduate with them and go on to high school.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't like I was going and sitting in a classroom at my level, because literally I had to learn everything all over again. So whenever I went in, I would go in the morning, and after running out of the hospital and everything, that's great. The work wasn't done though. I still had outpatient therapy. So my days would be in the spring and the summer. I would go into school in the morning, work with a private tutor from roughly 9:30 to 11:30, just her and I trying to get me caught up. Then I would go and have lunch with my classmates. And that was, I can't tell you how happy I was and how excited I was to see everyone, because it had been so long where I was just working on my own and I wasn't able to see anyone. So that meant the world to me. That was amazing. And then after lunch, my classmates would go back to class and I would be off to therapy, to outpatient therapy, where I would have sessions of physical, occupational, and speech therapy. And I had to have that for 6 more months in order to be 100% done with therapy. But even after that, I went to a physical therapist on my own and obtained a bunch of exercises that that would continue to help me get stronger and continue to grow. Then I would say shortly after that has to be the following summer. So approximately a year, a little less than that later, I started to get an interest. I started to get the itch for real estate. I saw what my parents were doing. I saw they were investors at the time. They would go in, they would buy 3-family homes in Worcester, 3 and 4 family homes in Worcester, and condo each floor, get the condo docs, the condo documents, and then turn off and sell each one of those condos. I saw what they were doing at the time, and I was like, I want in. What do you, how do you guys do this? What, how can I help? That kind of thing. So I actually shadowed their handyman that they had doing all the work. And that was a great experience. I learned a lot from that. But then I also saw my opening doing something, door knocking pre-foreclosure doors. And around that time was the kind of the ramp up of, 05, 06, 07. It was the ramp up right before the real estate bubble burst. And there were a lot of opportunities for sure. I remember I flew out to California. My cousin Mike and I did it together. He was actually doing it before I did. We flew out to shadow the number one person in the country that was having success doing these pre-foreclosure doors. And I had already experimented on my own and done it on my own. Not much success. I did a lot of doors, but I didn't have a lot of success. I would basically rush up to the house and introduce myself and tell them I was there to help them out of their unfortunate situation. And for the most part, Justin, they were probably like, who the hell is this crazy kid? This 16-year-old kid. And they were distressed. They were in a distressed situation. So they were under a lot of stress.
Yeah.
And then some kid shows up at their door knocking and like basically bull rushing the door and blurting out a script. And that's basically what it was, because I was just told, here's the list of homes that you can knock. Here's the script that you can say and try to book an appointment for the investor to come in and meet with them. So I didn't know what I was doing. I tried it on my own. I wasn't seeing a lot of success. But after my cousin and I flew out to San Diego and shadowed him, I saw the way he differed from my approach and how much success he was having. And I immediately changed my approach to a lot softer. As I'm sure you can imagine, that entailed walking up, doing a light, friendly knock, as opposed to bang, 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 like a light, friendly knock, like a friend stopping by, just like casual. Then when they would come to their door, I'd be like, hey, I'm not sure if I have the right address. Could you confirm something for me? Piece of information, an address for me. And then they looked down, they saw their name and their address, and they would light up and start talking and what happened and what they were doing to fix it. And then in a lot of cases, I'd be invited in and was able to set an appointment for the investor to come out and meet with them. And that continued throughout the rest of high school. And then after I graduated high school, I got my real estate license and started selling real estate as a licensed realtor. And that led me into what I'm doing today, which is I'm no longer licensed. I let that go in January 2016, which is helping our rent-to-own buyers through the process of getting in the home initially and basically becoming a homeowner. There's a lot of things. It's not just signing your name on a piece of paper. There's a lot of things about responsibility and everything that we have to kind of work with our tenant buyers about, all the way to getting their own loan at the end, educating the lender how it's supposed to work and everything like that. So that's what I specialize in doing today. And I also work with our associates that we have to help them do that as well, to do the same thing, working with their buyers. I feel like I've been talking a lot, Justin. You want to take the floor here?
We covered a lot of years there. So, and a lot of stuff has happened. So that's awesome. So this is just an amazing story, right? So you're told, parents are told by the doctors that you're probably not going to walk, not going to talk, probably not feed yourself. And then 3 months later, you run out of the hospital, like literally run on your own out of the hospital. And so tell us more about how that idea or how that goal came about, and then what was important for you in accomplishing that. And we'll get all the way back down to the real estate, but I'm really curious as to like how were you able to accomplish that kind of a feat?
Well, honestly, I can't I can't recall. I honestly can't recall where that came from. Just at the time, not being able to do basically anything, not being able to walk or talk, or at the beginning, talking for me was eye contact, eye contact and eye movement. Then that kind of evolved into gestures, I guess you could say, with my head. And then that evolved to mouthing words and then a whisper. And then I slowly was able to learn how to talk again. But I don't know, just off I would say, because I can't, if I'm being candid with you, Justin, I honestly can't recall what the motivation was. I just know that's what I wanted to do, because at that point in time, I was in a position where I couldn't do anything. And I looked around me and I saw all these other people, unfortunate as it is, that were in a similar situation that couldn't do anything. And I saw a lot of them not be able to. I don't believe there was anyone that was able to. Maybe it's a little egotistical of me to say, but that was able to go as fast from point A to point B than I was. It was actually a little under 3 months. I don't believe so. I actually won the Franciscan Children's Hospital Profile and Children's Courage Award. And in that, they had to do an interview. And they interviewed some of the therapists that I worked with. And one of them that they interviewed, Ray, he's still there to this day. I still go back to the hospital a few times a year and still see him. It's amazing. He loves what he does, and he's great at it, of course. They were interviewing him, and he mentioned that, it just sticks out to me. He mentioned that I made some quick progress, but as soon as I could communicate, one of the other therapists said that was my goal, to run out of the hospital. I honestly don't know where it came from. I think it probably came out of the fact that I literally couldn't do anything, and I wanted to get the hell out of there. As great as they are, and as much as I still support them, I didn't want to be there. So who does? Who wants to be?
No, exactly.
You know?
That's a good point. And so what lessons have you kind of gone through that experience and even probably overcome other challenges in life? What lessons have you learned through that you apply to your real estate career and just overall accomplishing your goals? What lessons have you kind of taken from that?
Yeah, that's a good one. The number one lesson that I think is good for me, and I still live by it to this day. And I coach all of our buyers through this process, and even all the associates that I'm working with. Just one step at a time. That's all you have to focus on. Just focus on the next step, the next thing that you have to do. That's it. For years, Justin, I was saying that to people without realizing the significance of what I was saying, because I had to learn how to walk again. When someone pointed that out to me, I kind of chuckled at that. It's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think one step at a time. Just keep focusing on that next step that next step, the next thing you have to accomplish.
Yeah.
Have the main goal in mind, but if you focus on that main goal, I think if anything, you might get discouraged. So have that main goal, but then focus on the next step that you can control.
Yeah.
Just keep doing that, because if you keep moving forward, there is no such thing as failure.
Yeah, I love that. Breaking those goals down to smaller next steps. I like to call them most important next steps. Like, what's the most important next thing that we can do to get us closer to our goal? And if we think about it on that level in the day-to-day of it, we're able to always be making progress, like you said. And then it's really easier for us to accomplish stuff. It's going to take time. And, but if we're making that progress, that we can't fail, like you said. I love that. Other lessons maybe that you've taken from your experience that you apply in life.
Yeah, I think this kind of goes back to me just being a 14-year-old and thinking I'm invincible. It's just like, think about stuff before you, like, if you're about to do something really reckless, or just take a quarter of a second and think about it. Like, is this really the best use of my time? And you can use that with anything, really, Justin.
Yeah.
You can say, like, is what I'm doing the best use of my time? Or is, going after work, going to the bar and getting a few drinks, is that the best use of my time? Is that the best? You can rationalize to yourself that, yeah, it's okay because of this, and this, or you can apply this for anything I'm talking about. But it's just that kind of that self-catch is this really the best use of my time? Is this moving me closer towards my goals?
Yeah, I love that. And so tell us more about now you're a big part of what you guys are doing there. Tell us more about the company, what you guys do, because it sounds like you're not only acquiring your own properties, making your own real estate deals, but you're also got some coaching going on, helping others do the same. And then kind of your focus is helping the end buyers qualify and become able to purchase a home from you, which I think is ultimately a really cool thing, that you're helping those that otherwise wouldn't qualify for a home get into one. So tell us more kind of broader, what have you guys built there? What do you guys do? And kind of break that down for us.
Sure. Yeah, I'm in charge of, or I specialize in working with, like, once we get a property on terms under contract, whether it's through a lease purchase agreement or long-term lease purchase, like a 7 or 10 year deal, or if we purchase a home subject to existing financing, or if the home doesn't have a mortgage on it, doesn't have any underlying debt, we'll purchase it with owner financing potentially. And there's a number of different ways that we can purchase properties. But once we purchase them, we're always selling them, for the most part. Just to keep it very simple, we're always selling it on a rent to own, and that's kind of what I specialize in. Is working hand in hand with our buyers to get them to closer to getting their own loan. And I agree with you that it's kind of an underserved. It doesn't exist in the market. So I think we're filling a gap. There's roughly only 20% of the market who can get approved for a loan today, and with COVID, it's even shrinking, just because banks are getting even tighter, making their lending requirements stricter and stricter. So if anything, it's becoming harder and harder for people to get their own loans. So we're basically giving people time and giving them a path so that they will be able to get their own loan.
I love that.
And eventually buy the home. I mean, there are some situations where someone comes in with like over 20% down payment, then we'll talk about doing a deal privately involving no banks,
Yeah.
but those are out there. Those happen a few times a year, but it's not like the norm.
Yeah.
That'd be way too easy. That'd be way too boring.
And just for the people that maybe are not familiar with a lease option, kind of give us the rundown of how that works. So how you're acquiring it, what the deal structure like, and then the exit or the sell of it to that renter owner. Give us kind of a quick summary of that.
Yeah, sure. I can do that. And also before I do, if your listeners wanna check it out, what we have is a free master's class where they can learn about our trademarked 3 payday system, and also learn a little bit more how we buy and sell on terms. They go to Smart, and I'm sure you put the link in the show notes.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, we'll have it in there.
smartrealestatecoach.com/mastersclass. And then whether they check that out or not, which I encourage everyone, if what I'm saying is the least bit of interest to them listening, I encourage them to check that out. But with that also includes a free strategy call with either my dad, my brother-in-law, Zach, or a strategy expert, Brian. And to get that schedule, that's free. They can go to smartrealestatecoach.com/action.
Perfect.
Yeah, and as far as buying, I'll just do a very simple example. There's so many nuances, and that's one of the things that we're going to be talking about with our associates and with anyone that's registered for our upcoming Business Scaling Secrets event. There's so many nuances within the deal. It's just really, it's astounding. I'm still learning. We're all still learning, really. And we just like to give that to all the associates out there to kind of light their path and make it a little bit easier for them. Just to give you a very simple example, we'll buy, say a property had been on the market for, it had been on the market for 6 months to a year, because a lot of the homes that we're working with have tried to sell conventionally on the market. Not all, it's not a requirement, but they've tried to sell and they've not been able to for one reason or the other.
Yeah.
This particular home, say they were trying for 10 months at $199.9. And for whatever reason, it just wasn't able to sell. We'll come in, we'll pay them a fair price. So that $199.9 less commissions and their closing costs and everything, what they were expecting to net with a full price offer. I'm just giving you an example. There's no hard and fast rule here, but we'll give them that offer. And then once we get that equitable interest, we'll go out to the market to find a buyer, a rent-to-own buyer that we could sell the home, and then that wouldn't be mortgage ready now, but it would require a down payment for them.
Yeah.
So in that example, say, comps in the area are like 170 to 190, but we're buying it for 199. We'll probably end up selling it on a rent to own for either 219.9 or 229.9, depending on what, the market is and what the comps are and what we think we can get. But more importantly, the buyer's locking in that price. So as the market continues to appreciate, they're gaining in that potential upside, not us. So we're not going to come back to them in 3 years and say, all right, so you're ready to buy the home. Now the price just went up 30,000 because the market, that they're locking in that price. Or if we're using that 229.9 number, the price just went up by 20 grand because, the market's better now.
Yeah.
The reason I'm not just pulling those numbers out of thin air, those are stuck in my head because a little less than 3 years ago, about 3 years ago, we sold a rent-owned home to a tenant buyer of ours for $199,000. I think it was $199,900.
Yeah.
She locked that price in, maintained the home and everything, responsibility for maintenance and repairs, everything over the course of her lease, made her scheduled deposit payments that we structured out with her. But now, 3 years later, she just says, she got approved for a loan. Awesome. She's got approved for a loan. Great. Let's schedule your closing. She doesn't want to go forward. She doesn't want to buy it. I said, okay, Sally, but let's, I just want to make sure I'm doing right by you. Just so you're aware, the values in the area have gone up. So potentially you could close on it, refinance it, in the future, 6 months, 8 months, whatever, and realize a ton of value. Basically walking the equity. The lender told her the same thing, wants nothing to do with it. All right, I can't be the one signing the loan for you, so I guess we'll take the property back and sell it for $250. But tried to help you, tried to tell you.
Yeah. Wow. So that's a crazy model. And I love how it in the scenarios where the buyer does buy, it's a good way for them. So you're not only you're helping people sell houses that sometimes they need to get rid of. You're also getting buyers that may not qualify for a mortgage, helping them get into a house. That's a pretty cool win-win scenario, obviously making money at the same time. And I love the term, and they'll have to, I'm sure you could go into this, but the 3 paydays. So if you're the investor doing these structured deals like this, you get 3 paydays. Maybe just tell us what those 3 are in a deal like this.
Yeah, sure. It's so the first payday is the buyer's down payment, their initial down payment. That is both upfront initially before they move into the home and sign with the attorney, with your attorney. And it's over time, over the course of the lease, whatever you're able to structure out with them, as far as additional payments towards their down payment. And really the lender that we're working with right now, and really any lender for that matter, loves to see that, because they see the buyer is continually getting vested in the home. They're putting more and more money down. So they're that much more likely to be approved once they get to the end of the loan.
Yeah.
The second payday is in that master's class I gave you. That address talks about it in detail, but just to give you high level. So the second payday is the difference between what we have to pay out to our seller, whether it's a mortgage or directly to a homeowner if there is no mortgage. It doesn't matter. It's the difference between that and what we're able to charge our buyer. That's the second payday. So then what we make every single month. Then the third payday is often, not every time, but often, most often the greatest payday, the largest payday. And that's the difference between what we bought the home and what we were able to sell the home, plus the principal pay down.
Yeah.
So every month that the mortgage pays down, the principal gets reduced, but we're guaranteeing the seller's price right here. So as we continue to pay the mortgage down, we're getting that, that spread right there.
Love that. So as you've coached people in following this process, what's a key characteristic that you see in the people that really progress and succeed through the coaching and getting deals done with this process? and how, a characteristic that you see in those that succeed that you don't see in those that struggle with the process and don't get it done?
It's a good question. I would say a lot of the people that we're starting to work with, and a lot of those people are people that are just fed up with the corporate America. They have a well-paying job and they're just fed up with the bureaucracy and whether it's having to travel for a sales job, or they're just fed up and they've had enough with it. So we're seeing a lot of success from those people that are coming into the community. And also I would say a characteristic is people that aren't afraid. They're not afraid to fail and they're not afraid to pick up the phone. Because the only way, and we do the deals for the most part, we do the deals with our associates. We work with them until they feel comfortable to do it on their own. But the way that people accelerate their own growth is if they do it on their own. It's uncomfortable to do things on your own, but you gotta. That's the only way that you grow.
Yeah, I love that. So maybe those people that have a strong why, they're trying to get out of maybe a job that they don't like or that they don't see an end to, and those that actually have the courage to get in and get things done. I love that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. What other tips would you give to if somebody's wanted to jump into the lease option model, and they're just getting started? What are some tips, maybe 2 or 3 tips that you would give those that are just trying to jump in, get rolling?
Well, there's a lot of free info in that master's class that I gave you and your listeners, and I encourage them to if they're interested at all in what I've said today, what I've talked about today, they can head over there and check it out. Just because I want to be respectful of your time, Justin. So I think that'd be the best course of action for them if they're interested in the lease. And if they're not, just turn the interview off. You have better things to do,
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah. Anywhere, especially with the free coaching, the kind of the intro to the process, that would be a great first step. I like that.
Yeah. That the smartrealestatecoach.com/mastersclass.
Perfect. Maybe another tip for those that are getting started and to help them succeed on their path.
Do something. You can learn until the cows come home. But until you do something, nothing else happens. Until you take action, nothing else matters. Exactly. It's all just theory.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think a lot of new investors, they learn about all the different types of investing and they get a little bit stuck because they don't know which method they want to do, where they should start, which market. There's kind of some decisions to make initially, and that paralyzes them in their progress. And so that's perfect. We don't hear that enough. Where just do something, whether that's starting your networking, going to, your local real estate association meetings, flipping a coin and picking one of the methods and just trying it out. Ultimately, I think you can line up the method that lines up most accurately with your goals, but regardless, pick a strategy and just dive in and do a deal. Do that first deal and see how it goes. You can always change strategies and change methods down the road, but do something is perfect. I love that.
And even if it's the wrong thing, even if it's the quote unquote wrong thing, doing the wrong thing is better than not doing anything at all.
Agreed. Yeah. And even if you do the wrong thing poorly, like it's still better than not doing anything at all.
You can get better. You can do it again and get better.
You can't make adjustments to a process.
To nothing.
Exactly. If you don't have anything to learn from and anything to adjust, you can't make adjustments. You can't get better and you're not going to progress. So I think that's actually pretty profound. I love that. Perfect. Any other final maybe thoughts or tips to our listeners before we sign off?
I would say, yeah, and this goes along with what I was saying when I was sharing with you my story of my accident. Just it's good to have goals and to know where you're going and everything and have that big goal you're going after. And this goes along with what we are talking about, but unless you're taking that next step, that even if it's that first step, you're not getting close to your goal. So you just got to take that step.
I love that. Yeah. One step at a time, do something and take it one step at a time. That's perfect, man. Well, Nick, this has been super encouraging. I think you have a cool story of overcoming challenges and making the best of it. And I think it's super inspiring to others. So listeners out there that, if you're faced with an obstacle, challenge, no matter what it is, there's a way around it. There's a way around it. Take some kind of a step, take it one step at a time, and you should be able to accomplish your goals. Man, Nick, thanks for being on. I appreciate your time. So we mentioned one website, any other links that you want to give us if they're looking for more information about you or the programs that you have?
Yeah, I think those are the first places I would go to get started and dip your toe in the water. Because I don't want to overwhelm the people with too much, but that's a great place to start, and it doesn't cost anything either to go and learn more. And if it makes sense, awesome. You'll know how to take the next step. If it doesn't, awesome. You'll know it's not for you and you can go in another direction. You can take that step in another direction.
Perfect. I love it. It's so profound. So yeah, Nick, we'll make sure those links are in the description here. Thank you for your time. This has been awesome. And hopefully we get to chat again sometime, man. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you. It was a lot of fun, Justin.
Thanks for listening to the Money Maven Project podcast. A true Maven shares knowledge with others, so be sure to share this podcast and leave a review. Thanks so much, and until next time, live life with intention.